dream must stay alive.
You think if I drink this, I'll turn into a monster?
Too late, Lex.
Very funny.
Could that be the antidote?
Who knows? V25 untested, it's worth a try.
Maybe this will tell us.
Well, stop messing about then. Get on with it.
Welcome to episode 42 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining me on a podcast panel today is Carlin.
Hello.
And Liz.
Hello.
With episode notes done by Matt and myself. So episode 42, the screenplay was done by Anthony Reed. It was directed by Julian McSweeney, and the episode synopsis will be read out by Carlin.
Amber, Bray, Lex, and Dale head to Hope Island with the belief that they'll find some information about the cure for the virus. Unfortunately, what they find en route is an abandoned minefield. Meanwhile, Taizan begins showing symptoms of the virus but refuses to treat it with science or technology. And Ryan catches Celine in the act of binging once again.
Okay, panel, let's jump right into the opening scenario of this episode. Lex and KC seem to have decided that the mall needs to be decontaminated due to Glenn's former presence. A seemingly logical idea, but the two end up spraying the mall with furniture products and fly spray rather than cleaning fluids. Yeah. We've already discussed the failures of the writing department in addressing their inability to read with the use of clearly marked and pictured items, but does this not just make the two of them seem even more stupid than they already are?
I think it speaks to desperation. I actually do housekeeping for a living, and I've had some moments where we had run out of disinfectant, and it's important for making, especially like something smells really bad, and even though you've cleaned it, you can't get rid of the odor. So you want to spray some disinfectant in the air to so it smells good. I won't lie. There have been a couple of times I got desperate and I sprayed something that just because it smelled good or like remotely good, like steel cleaner. So, I mean, I kind of get it in a way.
Oh, so they weren't in the wrong then.
Oh, they were stupid. Absolutely. But it's like the desperate part of your brain rationalizing that maybe this will work.
Okay, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, like, I mean, aren't these all part of the cleaning category? Maybe there's something in here, you know. Yeah, it's really dumb, but I kind of get it.
It just goes back to what we talked about before. Like, it must have a picture of furniture or a massive fly on the spray bottle. Like, how can you confuse it with like cleaning?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. I'm trying to like, okay, what does furniture polish usually have on the label for a picture? And I'm still kind of like, you got to be reaching if you think this is a cleaning product. So I got nothing for him.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty dumb. I don't know, I feel like as of lately, there's been a lot of dumb things happening to Lex and KC.
Do you think that was done on purpose to kind of de-escalate Lex's? I
do think it was done on purpose. I don't know if it was done to like de-escalate or make us forget what Lex has already done. They tend to. Lex does bad things. I mean, a character will do terrible things, and life will just simply move on as though they've never done it. So it's not just Lex they've done this with, and it's certainly not the first time they've done it with Lex. They did it with Celine as well. I think it has more to do with trying to point out the irrational logic that the Mallrats start using as they're reacting to this situation. Because, like, the A plot of this episode is fantastic. B plot is just like, oh my god, who cares? You know, there's just a lot of dumb discussions and arguments happening, and I feel like it's just showing how people react in a crisis. You know, we don't know what to do with ourselves, and you know, we look for distractions, we look for petty stuff to be upset about. So I don't know, maybe they were just showing how irrationally dumb we can be when we're kind of freaking out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just a thought. Like, I honestly, I can't. I don't know. I just noticed in this episode that there was a lot of stupid, petty crap happening. And I'm like, I don't think it's an accident. People do panic and start behaving in really weird ways because of it.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get to that in a bit about how different people react. But just circling back to the idea of decontaminating the mall itself, what do you think about that? Do you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was just kind of far too late to be trying to do that now?
I'd do it.
Mm.
I mean, it can't hurt. It can't make it worse, right?
True.
Yeah, I don't think it can make it worse, but for me personally, I think it was far too late. I think when they decided to allow Patsy, like they let her out, and then they allowed Glenn to like actually lay in one of their beds.
Ugh.
That was way too late for that. Yeah.
Like, you gonna burn that mattress?
Right. And the virus itself is airborne, so there's not really much they can do at that point. It's already contaminated them all.
Well, they don't know if it's airborne. They don't know how it transmits. Because remember, Lex and Patsy were both quarantined because they touched Glenn, and it was all about touch. And when they had their big, great moment, they all purposely made a point of touching each other. So they still don't know how the virus gets around. I don't think it's a bad idea to try and decontaminate them all. I mean, again, it can't hurt. It might not help, but it can't hurt.
There may be other dangers there, worse than ghosts.
Eh?
Well, the place might be contaminated.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It could be seriously contaminated.
After discussing the plan to go to Hope Island as a tribe, Lex, Amber, Bray, Dow, and Bob set off, with Sandra having reiterated the dangers and horror stories of that place, and a group passing Glenn's burial site. Panel, did anyone think or feel that there could be foreshadowing a death or any serious events?
You know, I don't remember if that crossed my mind. Maybe? The tension is pretty good in the A plot, so I think I was genuinely concerned about them. Like, oh my gosh, what are they going to get into? What might be there? But I was also just eager to, like, let's do this. You got to do it. It's worth the risk. We need answers, you know?
Yeah, I thought there were serious events ahead. This is like my favorite episode of season 1 because I felt like now we're finally going to get all the answers. Like, who made the virus? Like, why is the virus killing so many people? And, like, why is it now killing kids? So I was so excited to, like, finally get some answers.
It does have a feeling of, like, death hanging over them, though, especially reminding us of Glenn so much in the episode. Zandra thinking about Glenn, his funeral pyre, staring at it. It definitely is hanging out with them. Like, you know, Death he's that annoying kid who joins you at the table, like, hey, what you guys doing? You have plans after school? And everyone's all awkward, like, oh, hey, Death. I mean, we were going to go to Jordan's house, but I don't think there's enough room in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as Dale, Lex, Bray, and Amber as the group that goes, I love that group, but now looking back at it, I kind of wish we would have saw, like, you know, other tribe members gone. I felt like that would have been a lot more entertaining to see, maybe like a Tyson and then even a Zandra and how they would react to being on that island, along with Ryan and Casey.
Yeah, the tribe at this point, the writers are definitely have an A squad and a B squad. You can tell the ones who get the best plots and most interesting development, and the ones who are just kind of filling out the room. And I can't help but feel like by this episode, some writers are playing favorites. Like, oh, convenient, Ryan has to be left behind again. You know, it's got to be these guys who get to go and have this awesome adventure. It'd be different if the characters left behind got to do something very interesting as well. But instead, they're just left to do a lot of annoying bickering, and you don't want to be at the mall with them. So yeah, I kind of feel like at this point, the writers have their favorites.
Oh yeah, that would have been it would have been really good if Ryan would have went instead of Lex, and then it would have been awesome if they would have took Patsy along with them.
Like, I'm not saying that the group that went isn't a great group and isn't used well, but again, it just kind of feels like they got to go because they're favorites, and the writers love writing them and know what to do with them, and the ones who stayed behind, they just don't get as much to do. You know, it's just a lot of busy work back at the mall. I don't know.
No, I agree. Definitely.
Like, those guys got to go on the class trip to Washington, D.C., but the rest of you whose parents couldn't afford it, you have to sit in the lunchroom and hang out for a few days.
Right.
I mean, let's talk about the grouping, because do you think it was a sensible decision for all three tribe leaders to go?
At that point, I just feel like it made sense because they were the most sensible people to go. But again, it's because they've been written as the most sensible, and no one else has really been given a chance to show that they could handle something like that. I guess it makes sense. You wouldn't want to leave Lex behind, that's for sure, because you don't know what he'll get up to next when you're not there. So better just keep him with you. And Ryan is definitely the best for taking care of the mall and taking care of everyone there, and he's not going to cause any trouble. You might need muscle, so you wouldn't want to take two guys. I guess it was a very sensible choice, but it just coincides with these also being the writer's favorite characters.
Right. Yeah, I think in terms of a writing standpoint, it was perfect to get these characters together, because you have the thing with Amber and Sasha, and now she's kind of contemplating about being with Bray, and then you have Dale, who's good at science and good at computers, so they wanted to bring him along. And then honestly, Lex is such a wild card that you can put him in any scenario that he'll make it pretty entertaining.
Let's talk about that point, because I was going to bring it up a bit later. Like Dal and his kind of expertise with computers, like, why didn't they bring Jack? I mean, ignoring the leg, like, he is the most important person to take along to this research facility.
I think they remembered that they have Dal and that he is also intelligent, and they haven't given him anything intelligent to do for quite a while. So why not utilize him? And I don't know, I was glad they took Dal instead of Jack, because, dude, I would have picked Dal just because I wouldn't want to listen to Jack complain the whole trip. Stay here. Stay here with your wrapped foot. I don't want to listen to this the whole freaking time. That's all Jack would have done the whole trip, is bitch and moan and complain. I was like, we already have Lex. We don't need Jack on top of it.
Yeah, that I agree with, but he would be the most like, crucial member to bring along, I think.
He would have been, I suppose, but I still think the writers were like, we have to utilize, we forgot we haven't utilized Dal in a while, and Dal is also just as intelligent as Jack. He's also more pragmatic than Jack, which means he's better at solving problems. So, yeah, I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dale definitely showed in this episode to, calmer heads prevail.
I do love how that they got all the way to the shore and hadn't thought about how they were going to get to Hope Island.
Yeah,
that was weird. And then looking back at the episode, I'm like, wait, what were they even thinking about how to even travel there?
What was the plan, guys?
Like, it looked so far. I was surprised that they even got there today.
Yeah, I was like, you guys didn't think of, like, as they were walking over, like, okay, what should we do? How should we get over there? I just thought that was funny. They literally reached the shore side and then go, okay, so how do we get over there?
Yeah.
Like, I would like, why didn't you head to the marina where there would be boats already? Because you just got lucky that there was a boat here that didn't sink. And this is the second time they've gotten lucky. There just happened to be a boat when they needed it. Yeah, I just thought that was just kind of funny. I didn't get there like, okay, now what?
Yeah. And then a boat like that, I thought that was pretty. I thought it was pretty dangerous putting that many people in that kind of boat, especially just the island looks super far away. Like,
thank you. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, you're not gonna. That's not that's like a day's trip, not within the hour or 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's definitely a dangerous trip. In that kind of boat. And the fact that none of them have boating experience. This isn't rowing across a small river or something. Again, they don't know what shape this boat is in. That's a great distance they had to travel. And yes, they could probably do it in a couple hours, but in that rowboat, anything could happen out there. Then they're just trapped. You don't know how strong that current is. I get it. An audience of kids wouldn't think of it. They can see the island, and so they would think it's pretty close. But as adults, I'm like, that was crazy. That was crazy. So dangerous. Kudos to them. you imagine rowing all the way across that, you guys?
No, I cannot. That's why I was like, no, we have to find another way. Like, I would have thought there would have been a bridge.
Yeah, I would have been like, we need at least a small speedboat. Just a small one with those tiny little engines in it or whatever. That would make way more sense than them legit rowing across this thing. Like, oh my gosh, their arms would have been spaghetti by the time they were done.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine them making that crossing in those choppy waters. It's like, wow, that would be difficult.
Casey, what are you doing?
Oh, Ryan.
Bray's mural, you've ruined it.
No, please. Please don't hit me. My dad was always hitting me.
What are you talking about?
That's why I keep getting into trouble. I can't help it, honest. He used to beat me, something awful.
I'm not gonna hit you. Just give me the paint.
Let's go back to the mall for a bit because we need to talk about KC. So with all the leaders away, the young lad runs completely amok in the mall, doing several things like defacing Bray's mural, which I thought was a particularly harsh act given that the group have completely dropped kicking him out of the mall. He paints Porky, he roller skates through the corridors and breaks Tai-San's circle, and steals batteries. Yeah, panel, we know that everyone's feeling the tension in this episode, but do you think this is really the case with KC? Yeah, what do you think is up with him?
I think it's a classic case of acting out. I'm not saying it's okay. I don't approve of it. If this was my child, I'd knock him out. But I'm like, all right, that's enough. Okay, I know things are scary, but there's no reason to lose your mind. But I do think it's just he's acting out in response to all of this, and dealing with it's easier than dealing with any panicked thoughts, and. Yeah, I think that's all I think it is. I can't think of any other reason for why they would write Casey being this obnoxious at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's acting out, and then him just wanting attention since he's not getting that from Lex since Lex is gone.
It's very irritating. I don't think that's how I'd go about it if I was writing his character, but yeah, I just think that's what they were going for. Everybody is kind of being obnoxious in their own way, and I guess someone thought this fit Casey. It does feel a bit needless, though. Like, I don't know how it services the story, but...
Yeah, I was going to bring it up. It doesn't really serve much purpose for Casey. It didn't kind of go anywhere or do anything. It just, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like they were going to bring something up, like his past or something, and then, him lying to Ryan about how his dad used to treat him. I thought Ryan was going to find him later and be like, hey, like, you shouldn't lie, or, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. I was like, nope, they just leave it.
Just the fact of the way the girls respond when Ryan tells them what Casey has just told him. And, Ryan's actually quite upset to hear that this boy was abused. And, yeah, like you said, you feel like this is going somewhere, like it's going to serve some sort of purpose or some kind of character growth moment. And then the girls, just basically say that Casey must be lying because he told them a completely different story. And they are not at all concerned about this. And then it's completely dropped. Like, it just didn't matter. So a lot of Casey's actions feel like a waste of time. You don't really know why they have him acting this way when it doesn't service the story. It doesn't, help Casey grow. It doesn't do anything for his character. I just don't know why they chose to go that way with him. Like, why bring up his past if you aren't going to do anything with it and you're just going to throw it off like it's a joke? And, there's so much, like you said, Carlin, there's a moment that could have happened between Ryan and Casey. There could have been some exploration of Casey, and it could have been a great mirror image to what happened with Lex and the fact that he was abused and there wasn't anybody who swooped in to help him. And yet you could have Casey, there's somebody swoops in, but they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And it's just a waste of potential right there.
Yeah, when I was watching this episode on YouTube, a lot of the YouTube comments were saying how disappointed they were that they didn't really dive into Casey's past, learning more about him and why he is the way he is.
It's like, oh, you had something you could have used two of your characters, and it could have been great. I would have loved to see a scene like that between Casey and Ryan. Really diving into why Ryan felt like he needed to take care of Lex and that nurturer in him, and Casey, maybe finding a different, person to look up to, or just anything. It could have been used for character growth, and they just wasted it and wasted your time by forcing you to see it. And
yeah, I agree.
Yes, I mean, speaking of his past, what do you think is the true story for Casey? Do you think he did grow up in a home and not know his parents, or do you think he did have a dad who beated him, or is both true?
I think Casey's truth is a conglomeration of everything we've learned about him. I definitely believe it's possible that he came from a troubled home with his parents who couldn't get it together. They had complicated relationships. You know, they could be kind and play video games with him, and they could be harsh and they could beat him, and they could also not always be able to keep him. The state would have probably had to keep getting involved with this kid, you know what I mean, and taking him out of that home. I think it's all possibly true. We just don't have a context for it.
Mm.
And he's just coping with it, you know, coping with what friggin' happened to him, not really understanding why because he's a child, and, you know, just telling stories about it. I mean, I think I would have responded the same way. I was a big storyteller at Casey's age. I didn't think lying was bad because I wasn't trying to do anything bad. I just loved telling these obnoxious stories. And I think that's how I would have responded to growing up in such a chaotic situation.
Yeah. I think, well, what I like to believe, I believe that Casey and Lex kind of act the same, you know, in similar ways. So I would like to think that their past kind of was similar, maybe just different events, but, you know, the outcome of, you know, who they are is the same.
What the? Mines! We're in a minefield! Oh! The dog!
Bob! Sit! Sit, boy! Good boy! Now stay! Good boy!
What are we gonna do? If he moves, he'll get blown to bits.
Yeah. So could we. Wait, hang on, we've got to think about this. What's to think about? Let's get out of here.
As the exploration group have reached Hope Island, the tension suddenly shifts as they discover that they are in the middle of a minefield. Yeah, panel, what did you think of that sudden twist, and Bob having discovered the mines?
Nice. I loved it. I love that it suddenly turns into like this RPG quest. These obstacles coming up. I thought it was great. Like, this actually becomes a danger. At first, it's just kind of like, oh, it's what might be fine there. But then when you hit the minefield, you realize how much danger these kids have put themselves in. It catches your attention just like it gets theirs. When that bomb goes off, mwah, chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. It was, like you said, definitely like an RPG moment. And it definitely raised the stakes to the point where, all right, now we have to find something in this facility, you know, before we head back to the mall.
And it so reminded me of like a Legends of Zelda kind of game from the 80s where, okay, you have 4 people on this quest, and every time you come up against a problem, you have to pick the character who's best suited for the problem. And so I love that about this entire trip because everybody gets to show their strength and the purpose of them being on this trip. And it's also one of my favorite conversations, whether or not they should leave Bob or take. Oh my gosh, freaking love that. I woke up as soon as that bomb goes off. I'm like, okay, you've got my attention. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Once again, yeah, good knowledge from Dow as well about mines. And
you know, Bray suddenly, you know, immediately being, okay, what we need to do is find them. You know what I mean? We're not leaving Bob, and we can't just sit here, find the mines, you know, getting down on his hands and knees, like, yay, Bray's doing something awesome. You know, it's a great scene. It's awesome. I love everything about it. Lex, if you don't want to help, just sit back and shut up.
yeah, let's talk about that. Lex was willing to sacrifice Bob to set off all the mines.
I get it, though. I do. I mean, I would not have sacrificed Bob, but I get the pragmatism behind it. Like, dude, he's just a dog, you know? Yeah, I thought it just made sense, you know? I wasn't surprised or anything.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either, but at the same time, I think throughout this entire episode, I was like, why are we bringing Bob with us?
Because Bob has a role to play because he's awesome and he saves the day.
No, well, throughout the entire series, Bob has to be like one of the laziest dogs I've ever seen.
He is reserving his energy until the moments when it matters. But that's it. Even Bob plays a role in this. That's what I think is so great about this trip. because even their little magical animal that they brought, it seems perfectly useless, has a part to play. It's fantastic. I mean, even the blocking of how they discover the mines, that was really smart to use Bob, because they come up against a fence, and Lex, they're like, okay, is it electric? What should we do? And Lex is like, oh, we'll use Bob to figure it out. And he throws sticks, which Bob, of course, goes to fetch because he's a dog. And it's when he's throwing those sticks that he finds the mines. I'm like, that was really well orchestrated to get everyone in the physical positions where they need to be, to have Bob separated from them, for them to have to solve this problem. Very clever use of the people, of the characters.
Yeah.
I love how Bob is sitting there looking all cute. Like, you guys aren't going to leave me to die, are you?
Oh my god, his fake dog noises are just, ugh.
Oh, Bob, he's so cute. We're not going to leave you. We'll save you, Bob. That was the one unconcerned dog.
What did you think of Lex's little joke at the end with the supposedly electric fence?
Classic.
Yeah, it's classic Lex.
I mean, there's a time and a place to joke around. I mean, that just wasn't one of it. It annoys me a little bit, I have to say.
I'm a total douche. I would have done it too.
Yeah, I feel like from him having his foot on a mine and then him coming out okay, I think he just felt like, oh, well, it's a good day now.
So let's head back to the mall.
Do we have to?
I know. I feel the same way. It annoys me. I don't want to see them all. I want to see what's going on Hope Island.
Anyway, what am I supposed to have done?
Stopped him telling everybody how Lex planted the water on Bray.
Bray had it coming.
What?
Always playing so high and mighty.
That's no reason to use Ryan like that.
And the way he treated Trudy, and you.
Zandra, it's not fair taking advantage of Ryan. So lay off him, okay?
Why? What's it to you?
Ryan's a sweet guy and I don't want to see him getting hurt. That's all.
Oh, so does he know you fancy him?
Grow up, Zandra.
Don't say that. I don't want to grow up.
Those that are left behind, everyone seems to be feeling the tension of events, but in different ways. With Celine feeling guilty after Ryan finds her binging again, he tries to reassure her by telling her that they've all done things that they're ashamed of. And it's this scene that he admits his part in covering up the water scandal. Celine realises that Zandra's manipulation of him, and she has it out with her. Panel, what do you think about Celine confronting Zandra?
I get the sentiment. I'm upset at Zandra for doing it too. But way to deflect from what you just did, Celine. And I get it. You need something to be concentrating on and be distracted from your own concerns. And looking after Ryan, protecting Ryan is your way of doing that. In the same way that Ryan looking after you is his way of not thinking about it. I just don't care. Oh my gosh, I just don't care. It's hard for me to care. I think this could have been handled better, what these kids are feeling back at the mall, the helplessness of being trapped at the mall, this tension and the freak out of the fact that you're basically just waiting for death. I mean, what are they going to do if the others don't come back? What do they do if the others get hurt? They have no way of knowing. They can't call. They just have to wait. I feel like they just could have handled this better than the mindless, annoying bickering we have to listen to whenever we're with them. Because there's lots of great material, but they don't do anything with it. It's just noise. Zandra's fears of getting old and freaking out about that. Even the fact that she's not sorry for her part in setting up Bray. That's an interesting conversation we could have had. There's just some stuff we could have explored about these people, and we don't. I'm just like, why are you making us listen to this crap if you're not going to use it?
It is interesting, Zandra's kind of general sentiments towards Bray. I don't know. I wish they would have they dived deeper into that. Cause...
I know. I'm like, you think Bray deserved that because of his behavior? Fine, fair enough. What about Lex and the things he's done, Zandra? I don't understand your point system and how you value people. You know, why not explore this? Why not explore Jack and Tysan's very differing points of view on science and spirituality instead of just having them snipe at each other? You could actually do something with these amazing points of view. But no, they're just very annoying to have to listen to. Why are you wasting my time?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it was complete waste of time. There's a lot of things they could have done with this episode to make it a lot better. Even though I still love this episode, but yeah, it's just unfortunate, especially like Chloe, Patsy are literally just paintings on the wall in this episode. Barely given any lines of dialogue.
I mean, Zandra finding the gray hair and her panic at it. You know, this could have led into a very interesting conversation about symptoms of the virus. You know, so that when Tai-San finally sneezes, it would have had more impact because they've all been discussing it and what it means. How will you know if you get it? And, you know, then it would have had some impact when she suddenly sneezes and everybody's like, uh-oh. You know what I mean? But no, Zandra yanks it out of her head. She's freaking out. And, you know, Celine's like, whatever, who cares? And it's dropped. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, why are you've got all this material and you're doing nothing with it. What is this?
Yeah, I agree. I also think that this show makes, I think they put events together on accident. So like when Zandra found the gray hair and she's freaking out, that was literally at the same time where Bray, Amber, Lex, and Dale find the skeleton with gray hair. So yeah, they could have totally brought up like everyone slowly getting symptoms of the virus because they allowed Glenn to stay and for, you know, Patsy to roam about. I thought that would have been really cool. And then to see how they all would have dealt with it. Maybe some freaking out and maybe some are like just calm about it.
That could have been very thematic too. You're right, Carlin, because then the impact of Amber seeing their inevitable future would have been like a kick to the gut. But yeah, they just don't. It's not organized at all. Again, B Squad, they don't care about the kids at the mall. They have to show them doing something. But it could have been done way better. Especially because the writing on the A team is so good. Like, A plot is fantastic. B plot is just like, obligatory, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, considering the reaction of everyone who are left behind, do you think there should have been a bigger reaction to Tai-San becoming sick?
If they built up to it, yeah, but they don't. So it just falls flat anyway to me, regardless of how they respond to it.
Yeah, it falls flat. And then
her sneezes are terrible. They're so bad.
Yeah, her sneezes are terrible. But I mean, at this point, we know it's the virus, but it could have easily just been the toxic filth that Lex was spraying into the air.
Could be so many things. But I do like the fact that they respond, that everyone kind of gets silent and they're like, you sneezed. And then even Tai-San nervously is like, it's just dust, you know? And so I do think it's a cool moment that could have been made so much better if it had been built to, you know, and they'd actually explored these fears and these symptoms that you might get and everybody looking for it so that when she finally does sneeze, you know, it's like lowering the boom. You guys have been bickering about stuff that doesn't matter. And the real thing you're all scared of is right here, you know, but they don't do anything with it. So it doesn't land the way it's supposed to. And so it doesn't matter. I think her response is more interesting than theirs.
What do you guys think about the near misses that happen in this episode in terms of relationships? Because we have Celine and Ryan awkwardly deciding to be just friends. And there's a moment on Hope Island where Bray seems that he's just about to confess his feelings to Amber before he's interrupted to Lex. Was this frustrating for you at all, or did you not mind it?
I think if I was younger and super invested in the relationships, like if I was a shipper or something, I think it would have. But because I was a little older and I didn't actually care that much, it didn't bother me. I didn't really notice. I thought they were cool moments, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't care if Bray ever confessed his feelings to Amber. It'd be cool, you figure it out, but I didn't really care if he ever did. I didn't care if Celine and Ryan became a couple. So I guess I just wasn't the audience for that. It didn't have any effect on me. I wasn't invested enough to care.
Yeah, same with me too. I wasn't that invested. I mean, after just the idea of like, oh, we're going to Hope Island, we're going to find answers. That's what my mind was set on. Like nothing else, no distractions. We have to do this to save ourselves and potentially the entire world. So I felt like it was that big of a deal, and it was a little bit kind of a cringe, a little bit, just when Bray would always try to talk to Amber and bring up his feelings. Why is he getting so sidetracked?
Because the world's ending, Carlin. He could die any day. He's got to tell the girl he cares about before that happens.
Yes.
To be fair to the show, I'll put myself in my younger shoes, like when that stuff would have really mattered to me. And I do think the moments are done well. You know what I mean? I can totally see someone watching Celine and Ryan and being like, oh my gosh, these two are totally going to get it together eventually, and being very excited about that. And I do think the Bray and Amber moment is done very well, especially when I put into context that Bray's probably never had to ask a girl out. He's never had to do the work. And here he is building up the courage to do the work with Amber, and she's completely clueless at this point, you know, because she gave up on him a long time ago. And so I think the moments are done well. And if I were younger, I would have totally been like, Lex, shut up! You ruined it! He was gonna say that.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, it's good conflict for the episode. Because this A squad, they totally just bounce off of each other so well.
Yes, they do. Because I even thought it was cute when Bray was helping Amber out of the boat. I was like, oh, so adorable.
Yeah, they bounce off each other so well. There's good conflict. But it still makes me wish if the other Mallrats were there. Like, just to see, like, in that situation, to see Lex, Zandra, and Ryan, like, how they would, you know, react to that with, you know, Lex talking to Zandra, like, as they're married, and then Ryan still kind of wishing he was with Zandra.
I think it works better that the whole group wasn't at Hope Island. One, Hope Island is very slick. It's very well written and orchestrated, and just having the 4 characters and the dog was enough. It would have been a cluster blank if they had had a much larger group. It is a very cool Mission Impossible style adventure they go on, and it works with just the characters they have. Everything from, I'm sorry, I'm going too far, but yeah, it works just the way it is. If they'd had more characters, I think it would have become very clunky trying to figure out what to do with everybody. And all you'd be thinking is, why did they bring this many people on this adventure? This is impractical. So I think they were smart to just bring their A squad to Hope Island, especially when you think of how everything plays out. And then I just wish they had done more with the B squad at the mall. They could have had just as good, you know, writing and adventure over there, but nobody wanted to give them anything, so.
Yeah.
What is it? Have you done it?
I'm in. I've got the files open.
What do they say?
I don't know, they're all in code. Uh-oh. Codes can be cracked. Might take a bit of time, but...
Hey, what?
It's okay. Sign of the door.
Attention.
What's that?
It's just a recording.
Failed to confirm security code B.
What does it mean?
Password now. Enter password now.
As the A squad enter the facility, they are presented with what seems to be various test files, what they assume to be the antidote. And it's in this scene that Dal attempts to access the computer systems, which leads to the group being locked inside when he triggers a security alert due to a failed password. Yeah, what was your first impressions of the lab? And what did you think about the end cliffhanger?
Oh, it was like the final boss. Like, you think you've gotten through all the threats and you're in the castle, and then Bowser shows up and you're like, oh man. I thought I was there, but no, there's one more gigantic thing you have to go against. I thought that was a great escalation of threat. You know, you thought it couldn't get worse than the minefield, and now it's like that would terrify me, the idea that the lab was locking down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even claustrophobic, but I would lose it. Because that's one of my biggest fears, of being like buried alive, or oh my gosh, you can see out the window that the outside is right there, but you can't get to it. That's terrifying. Woo! That was a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was definitely a really good cliffhanger. I was a little bit surprised. Well, I guess not too much time has passed, but I was a little surprised that the lab itself was like still in like really good condition.
It was weird. It's not like it was hermetically sealed. They were able to just open the door and get in. So
right. I mean, we did see one dead body.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Can we talk about that dead body?
No, let's skip the dead body.
Oh, come on, you guys. You know you want to talk about that dead body.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be crazy if that was actually Danny's dad?
That's actually great. Okay, that would work for me if that was Danny's dad. I'm sorry, where did they get that prop?
Yeah, that was a particularly bad prop.
My favorite part is the kids have to act like they're afraid of it. Oh my gosh. Whew, that was a tiny little scientist.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, it looked like this scientist weighed about 80 pounds.
Don't touch it, Dad.
I'm sorry. I like the fake spider webs that were supposed to have been his hair. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I know it's terrible. It's a kid show, but every time it gets me.
I don't know why. I was expecting there to be a name tag on that ID card, but they never show you or tell you.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Remember, up in this season, the dead adults don't have an identity. They're just the adults, who didn't make it. And we don't really discuss them as individuals. They may have been mom or dad, but they didn't have names, They're a monolith that's gone.
Yeah, that's so wasted potential. I should ask questions to the tribe official websites and ask, like, did they ever have like this whole plan of like from point A to B to C of the entire story, or they literally just made it up as they went along? Because sometimes it just feels like that.
I know from interviews, Ray has said that he's always had a vague outline of what should happen in the show, but the connecting dots haven't exactly been filled out.
Right. Yeah, I think that they would have spent a little bit more time on connecting the dots. I think everything would have just flowed a lot smoother from season to season.
Or at least letting those dots organically connect themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's good to have a roadmap. You need one. But often in his quest to get from point A to point B, he doesn't care if it makes a whole lot of sense. Like where the characters should have organically taken the highway, instead they just traipse through the forest, and you're kind of like, why would they have taken this path to get to this next point? It's just because he needed them at that next point. And sometimes I get it. Sometimes it organically works really well, and then other times you can tell they're just forcing it through. But I think that can happen in any like grand epic adventure. Even Game of Thrones is guilty of it. So
yeah.
Do you think they did the lab quite well?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, I didn't have much to compare it to. I was like, I've seen labs in schools, so I was like, this is okay, I guess. Pretty simple, but whatever. I kind of felt like the room should have been bigger, and like we weren't seeing the whole room.
Yeah, I felt that as well.
Like there was a whole bunch of stuff behind the camera that we weren't seeing. We were just seeing what's important. But I forgave it. It was fine.
Yeah, the lab was fine. Maybe looking back at it, I kind of wish it was a little bit more menacing, like they're afraid to enter inside this lab because maybe there's like, there could have been like another dead skeleton, bottles of liquids would have just been all over the place.
I do think there's something innocuously awesome about the fact that the lab is so simple and clean and sterile, because it figures that, in our sterile scientific world, that we would create something that literally wipes out everybody. It's so dangerous. And yet, when you look at the places where they're created, they don't look deadly. They don't look dangerous. They look very innocent. And I don't know why I like that, but I think it just makes sense that the lab looks, like there's nothing wrong here. And yet, they created the virus that just destroyed the world.
Right. Yeah. I do like that too. It reminds me of like the old Fallout games.
They were just innocently experimenting, took one step too far. Because even the Jurassic Park labs looked sterile and clean and nice and innocent. And they were really creating an abomination against nature. That's how you get backers and funders and stuff. That's how you get them. You have to make it look like what you're trying to do is so innocent, so they'll give you money.
Just like a side thing, but I kind of wish they'd done the Pandorax logo put a bit more effort into it. It's just a P on a circle background. I was like, it could have been a bit more in depth.
But you have to admit, There's a 9-year-old out there who was like, I know what that stands for. They thought they were so clever. Like, that P, it must stand for Pandorax. My favorite is the generator room just has a sign that says generator room.
Yeah, and I was so surprised that even worked. Like,
Yeah, that gets me every time. I'm like, oh, that's so nice that they labeled it.
yeah. And then also in the lab, I thought it was actually kind of funny that the computer was, operational. Because I would imagine without the generator room, everything would have just shut down completely, and it would have to like boot up.
Yeah.
Like, knowing that computer probably would have took days.
The Tribes was still, I think it suffers from 90s computer syndrome. Now, in the 90s, computers weren't, people had computers, but the internet and stuff was becoming more, it was still this magical thing. Most people didn't know how it worked. Most people did not know how computers could solve any kind of problem. So if you look back at any movies or TV shows that focus on computers or hacking in the 90s, they literally can do anything. They're magical. You just press a few buttons, and because most of us had no idea how computers worked. If we had one in our home, we used it at best to play some games or maybe some word processing. And the early 2000s is when the internet and computers became more ubiquitous for everybody. And then we realized they aren't magic. They're awesome. They're fantastic, but we understand their limits and what they can and cannot do. But until that became the thing, we were willing to watch people do stuff with computers that's impossible and not know any better. So I feel like the Tribe suffers from that, because think about 5 seasons, everything they make computers do. And their young audience wouldn't know any better, And you're looking and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. It's very dated. It would have fit so perfectly in, like, crap that happens in the later seasons, especially season 5 would have worked so well in the mid 90s. A movie like Hackers or Lawnmower Man or whatever. Like, they don't actually do that, you guys. So yeah, you have these characters who just click a few buttons and they can basically make these computers do anything, and they can access any files, and it's like, realistically none of that would happen, but suspension of belief.
Yeah, it's like the CSI enhanced feature. It's just
And
go along with it, yeah.
like, why didn't you just look at it enhanced feature in the first place?
Right. Yeah. And I also, when Dale was on the computer, I was actually trying to figure out what the password could be. So I'm like, what would it be? I probably would have just put Pandorax just to see if that would have worked. I really wondered what Dale was typing.
Corn. He was typing corned beef.
Ketchup.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet the password would be something like really simple too. Really simple.
Well, I can't remember my own passwords. There's no way I could have guessed that one.
Yeah. There's no way they were guessing that. Yeah, if anything, I don't know. Maybe now I'm like looking at it from like a hacker's approach. If anything, maybe they should have just like reboot the whole computer and maybe try to log into an email, and then from that email look at passwords.
Carlin's he's like, I'm gonna figure this out. I need to know what Dell was.
Yeah, I feel like I probably would have figured it out, but not like from guessing at a password, but maybe looking at other things around. Maybe that key card could have had something, like maybe it was like an identity card, and you can look up that person's name, look them up in the computer, look at their employee number, then their email, and then you can like solve it from there.
Not bad. That's good. See, now that just makes me want to know about that guy, that body.
Yeah.
Like, why was he still there?
Oh, it's Danny's dad.
Why didn't he go home to his family? I just think that's so sad that he stayed there till he was so sick that he just collapsed in the hallway by the front door.
Oh, you know who could have been? It actually could have been a janitor. That's why this place looks so like really good. And then he just happens to die there. But he ended up finishing his job.
He was devoted. Maybe this is all he had in life. You know what I mean? And he made sure everything got shut down properly. And maybe he was going outside to do one last task. And he just collapsed because he was so weak. He's like, I'm just going to stay here and take a nap. And that was it. Yeah, I've always wondered about that guy.
His legacy will live on.
We're assuming that the antidote was made at Hope Island and shipped off to all the major cities, right?
That's where the prototype is supposed to have been made. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. You said it, so I'm going to say it. You said the word. I hate the fact that this is called the antidote because it didn't cure anything. It wasn't an antidote. I don't understand why they would even call it that when at best it's like a beta test because it clearly didn't cure a single adult. So I don't know why they would call it a cure or an antidote. It didn't work. I don't know why you would mass produce something that doesn't work.
What's the point?
It drives me bananas, and I'm only saying it because you brought up the word antidote, and I'm like, okay. I'll go into it much later in other episodes, but yeah, it drives me bananas. I get it. This is where it's a prototype, and season 1 still follows those rules. It's an antidote, like a prototype. They were obviously testing. They were developing it here. It even behaves like a prototype. But when you find out later that it was called an antidote and that they mass produced it and sent it all over the place, and I'm like, it didn't cure anybody, and you didn't know about the second strain that was going to affect the kids. Stop calling it an antidote.
Oh yeah, that's just true. There's like a secret society of cured adults somewhere.
Exactly. The only way it could actually function as an antidote is if there were still adults walking around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have just been a failed test. That's all it would have been. They wouldn't have mass produced a failed test.
Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely not an antidote. And then I guess later on in the show, I guess like in season 2, you didn't learn that they didn't need it. Like certain people like just never took it and didn't need it.
We will get into that.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. That's a whole weird situation. Oh boy, yeah. So marks out of 10 for the episode.
Oh, what can I call it? Okay, A plot is an A+ for me. B plot, ugh. I'm gonna pass you, but it's just because I don't want to bring down the grade point average for everybody else.
Yeah, I absolutely love this episode. I rewatch it all the time, so definitely an A-.
I hate every time we have to go back to the mall.
Yeah,
it ruins the momentum for me, and I feel like those two plots could have coincided really well together, and they could have complemented each other, but they just don't, And so it's like when we're on Hope Island, fan-friggin-tastic. This is so good. And then they just stop momentum in its tracks, make us go back to the mall, and it's not entertaining. It's irritating to be there. And I'm just like, please, I'd rather go back to the minefield than deal with these people. So I'm with Carlin, A-, just because the mall, the ones we left behind are dragging down the grave.
That brings episode 42 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and we'll see you next time for episode 43. So until then, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.